Hi everyone, my name is Lindsay and this is my self-intro / brown bag speech. Throughout this speech I'm going to talk about how I have a passion for teaching and how I also have a passion for the Lord. Growing up, I never would have thought that I would want to teach kids. I come from a family of 8, and so when you come from a family of 8, that's not something that really you want to do because you're always around kids, so you never really want to be around kids for the rest of your life. But recently, I realized that God has placed a calling on my life to teach children. He has shown me that this is what I need to do for the rest of my life. Throughout this speech, I'm going to talk about how I have a job at Atlantic Shores and what I have to do there. And I will also talk about how I have a job at my church as the lead teacher in the preschool department. And lastly, I will talk about my love for the Lord and how I serve the Lord on a day-to-day basis. So I hope you enjoy my brown bag speech. My job at Shores, I started working at Atlantic Shores Christian School in September of last year. And when I first got the job there, I just thought, oh, it's just any other job. But I soon realized that it is more than just a job to me. It is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. Basically, what I do is I go in the mornings at 6:30 in the morning, and I'm with children from 6:30 till 8 o'clock when I start to line them up to go to class. And what I do with them is I get out the toys before they get there, so that way when their parents drop them off, they see that there's fun things to do and that the kids don't have to be sad to leave mommy and daddy, that they're going to have a fun day. And so what we do is we either play board games like Candyland or Go Fish, or we play with the toys, which a lot of our toys are cars, or we have baby dolls for the girls, or we play dress up. So we just have a bunch of different fun things for the kids to do while they wait to go to class, so that way they're not bored. But on Fridays what they do is they come in and we have movie day. And what movie day is we go over to the K4 room and we all sit down and we have a movie playing, which this past week it was Monsters, Inc. Sometimes it's Toy Story, so it's any little kid movie really, is whatever movie that they want to watch that day. Sometimes we let them choose and sometimes we choose the movie for them. And then at 8 o'clock, what I do is I line the kids up and they get in a nice straight line. And sometimes it can be very trying to get 13 3-year-olds to line up in a nice straight line. So what they do is they line up and we have our hands at our sides and a bubble in our mouth, because that's the way it's supposed to be for school. They're not supposed to be touching anything in the hallway. They're supposed to just be walking nicely and not to be running around all over the place. So it gives them a little bit of reinforcement of what they learn in school. And that's basically what I do for mornings. Afternoons are a little bit different. When I go to work at 3:25, and what I do is when I first get there, I have to go over to the Life Center, and I have to get the 4th through 6th graders that are staying for extended care, and I have to walk them up to the Spanish room. And then once I do that, I go back to my classroom and I sign all of my kids in, and then I take my clipboard to the desk. And when I get back, all of my kids have to go potty and they have to get ready. They get lined up again after they all go to the bathroom. They line up and we go outside. After we're outside for about 45 minutes, we come back inside, we sit down, we eat snack, we go to the bathroom if we have to, and we just get a little bit of a relaxed period so that way they're not out in that heat for so long. And then after they eat snack, we make sure they all go to the bathroom again, we line them up again, and then we go back outside for the duration until their parents come and pick them up. And that's basically what a day in the life of working at Atlantic Shores is like for me. Now, going into working as the lead teacher in the preschool room at my church, that involves a little bit more work because I have to get there at 9 in the morning. And what I do, we're based out of a high school, so I have to go in and get my classroom set up, and I have to move all of the school's desks out of the way and get my mat to put down on the floor for the children to sit on. And what our mat is, it's basically a bunch of puzzle pieces and you put them together and it makes it so that way there's room for everyone to sit on, and it's soft so that way if they were to fall down or they were to bump their head, they're not going to get hurt on the ground, and I don't have to worry about bleeding, I don't have to worry about them getting a bruise, and that way it just makes it a lot easier. And then when the kids start getting to my classroom from 10:30 to 10:50, anytime in between that time frame, and when they first get there, I have to look at their name tag, and on their name tag it has a number, and that number I have to write down by their name on my check-in sheet, so that way if their parents would need to be called, I call the service coordinator and they put that number up on the screen for their parents to see, and their parents can come back and get the child. And from there, then they go to, at 10:50, they go to the bounce house. And they get a bounce for about 2 to 5 minutes, give or take how many kids we have. and they get a bounce, and they get a run off some energy in the bounce house, so that way when they come back, they're ready to listen and obey to the lesson and listen to the worship songs. At 11 o'clock, I play the worship music, and we just have 2 songs because for little kids it's hard to sit through 3 or 4 songs of worship music because they have short attention spans. After the worship music is over, we sit down and I teach them the Bible lesson. And I have this big book that has a story from the Bible. Like last week I taught on the story of Esther, and the week before I taught on Abraham. And throughout the story I'll ask them questions like, oh, who is this character? Who's that? And what did they do? And what did we learn from the story overall? And each month we always have a theme. And the theme for this past month of August was that God keeps his promises. So when we talked about Abraham, I showed them how God kept his promise of giving him his son. And when we talked about Esther, I showed them how God kept his promise to her by saving the Jewish people. So they learned throughout the lesson that, God does keep his promises. And if they learn that at a young age, they'll remember it when they're older. And then after the lesson, we do craft. And lately it's just been coloring. We have coloring sheets and they color pictures, but I'm starting to get to a point where we can glue, like if we're making Abraham, we can glue a cotton beard on him, or for Esther, we did paint on their hands and we made a crown for Queen Esther. So it's just little things like that, and it helps them to remember, oh, we learned about Esther today, oh, we learned about Abraham, and it'll help them get their minds thinking, oh, well, if God did that for Abraham, he can do that for me. And then once their parents come and pick up the kids, and I check them all out of class, then I have to tear apart my room, and I have to wipe down every single toy, and I have to wipe down the mats, and then I have to put the desks back in order before I am free to leave. And once tear down is done, then I am free to go back to my house or go do whatever I'm doing for the day. And that's what it's like to work as a lead teacher in the preschool department at my church. And lastly, I'm going to talk about my love for the Lord. And to be honest, I didn't have a strong relationship with God until I was 15. When I was 15, my parents got a divorce, and that hit me really hard, and I lost my relationship with God. I just was in a really dark place, and then my one friend encouraged me to go to a youth conference with her, and I did, and I just really heard God say to me, no matter what I go through, I'm always going to be there for you. And since then, my life hasn't been perfect, but I've grown in my relationship with God. And there's been times when my relationship with God has gotten off track, but for the most part, I've stayed up to date with my relationship with God and stayed on top of it, making it a priority. Like every morning before I go to work, I do daily devotions, and I spend time reading a Bible passage because I think it's so vital to our Christian life that we read a Bible passage, and we call it SOAP in my church, where we find a scripture and we write down what we observe from it, we write down how we can apply it to our lives, and then we pray. And I think it's so vital because it grows you in your relationship, and you can see from others how they grow in their relationship too. So it's just all about growing your relationship deeper with God. And then I also play worship music on the way to my work in the morning because, to be honest, when I drive to work at 6:30 in the morning, I'm not the happiest person. It's hard and I'm grumpy a lot of the time. So when I play worship music, it helps take the focus off of myself and put it on God where it belongs. So I think that's also what has helped with my relationship with God and help it become to where it is today. And lastly, I hope that my life can show others that, God is, you need to follow God because his way is the only true way to follow. And I heard a quote a couple days ago, and it said, the best message you can ever preach is the one called your life. And I hope people can learn from my life that God's love is all you need, and you'll be fine. And as long as you turn to God instead of turning to the ways of this world, you'll be set for life. And so with that being said, I hope you learned a little bit about myself. I hope you saw how much I truly do love and cherish to be a teacher, and just how much I cherish those kids. And I hope you learned that, no matter what, God is always there for you and always will be. So thank you for listening to my brown bag speech.